In the cozy town of Willow Creek, nestled between gentle rolling hills in Vermont where sugar maples turned fiery red and gold every autumn and the air smelled of fresh apple cider and wood smoke, there lived a boy named Lucas Bennett. Lucas was 10 years old, with soft brown hair that fell into his eyes, kind hazel eyes that noticed everything, and a quiet smile that appeared when he was lost in his own thoughts. He loved drawing maps of imaginary worlds, building intricate forts out of blankets and chairs, and collecting interesting rocks from the stream behind his house. But more than anything, Lucas wanted to feel proud of who he was. The problem was that Lucas was always compared. It started at home. His older brother Ethan was the star athlete, fast on the soccer field, tall for his age, and always bringing home shiny trophies. "Why can't you be more like your brother?" his father would say with a sigh when Lucas came home with average grades or when he preferred reading quietly instead of joining the neighborhood baseball games. His mother, who worked hard as a teacher, would gently add, "Ethan never struggled with math the way you do, sweetheart. Maybe you should try harder like him." At school, the comparisons continued. His best friend Noah was the class clown, quick with jokes and always surrounded by laughing friends. Teachers would say, "Noah has such natural confidence. Lucas, you're so quiet. You should speak up more like him." Even the art teacher once held up Lucas's careful, detailed drawing of a forest and said, "It's nice, but look how bold and colorful Mia's paintings are. You could learn from her." Everywhere Lucas turned, someone was holding up another child as the example of what he should be. Over time, the comparisons carved deep grooves in his heart. He began to believe that he was never enough exactly as he was. He tried to copy Ethan by forcing himself to play soccer, but he spent most games on the bench feeling clumsy and slow. He tried to be funny like Noah, but his jokes fell flat and made him feel even smaller. He tried to paint like Mia, but his colors felt dull compared to hers. Inside, Lucas felt like a faded photograph next to brighter, bolder pictures. He stopped sharing his map drawings. He stopped building forts because they seemed childish compared to Ethan's sports achievements. He spoke less in class because he was afraid his words would sound stupid next to Noah's quick wit. The boy who once had so many quiet wonders inside him began to shrink, dimming his own light so he wouldn't have to face another "Why can't you be more like?" His grandmother, Nana Rose, who lived in a small yellow house at the end of their street and spent her days tending a magnificent garden filled with flowers of every color and shape, noticed the change in her grandson. One crisp autumn afternoon, when the maple leaves were at their brightest and the air was sweet with falling rain, Nana Rose invited Lucas over for hot apple cider on her porch. She handed him a cup and sat beside him in her rocking chair. "You've been very quiet lately, my boy," she said gently. "Your light seems dimmed. What's weighing on your heart?" Lucas stared into his cider. Tears pricked his eyes. "Everyone is always comparing me to someone else, Nana. Ethan is better at sports. Noah is funnier. Mia is more artistic. I'm never good enough just as I am. I try to be like them, but I always fall short. Maybe I'm just not special." Nana Rose was quiet for a long moment. Then she took Lucas by the hand and led him into her garden. The garden was a beautiful chaos of life, tall sunflowers standing proud beside delicate forget-me-nots, sturdy oak leaf hydrangeas growing next to fragile bleeding hearts, wild black-eyed Susans blooming freely among carefully trimmed roses. No two plants were the same. Some grew tall and straight. Others spread wide and low. Some had bold, bright colors. Others had soft, subtle shades. Yet the garden as a whole was breathtaking. "Look around you, Lucas," Nana Rose said. "Do you see any two flowers that are exactly alike?" Lucas shook his head. "Exactly," she continued. "The sunflower doesn't try to be a rose. The rose doesn't try to be a daisy. Each one grows in its own way, with its own shape, its own color, its own timing. And together, they create something far more beautiful than if every flower tried to look the same. The garden needs the tall ones and the short ones, the bold ones and the quiet ones. Your comparisons are like trying to make every flower identical. That would destroy the garden's beauty." Lucas looked at a small, slightly crooked violet growing in the shade of a large oak tree. It wasn't as flashy as the sunflowers, but it had a delicate purple beauty all its own. "But what if my way isn't as good as everyone else's?" he asked softly. Nana Rose smiled and knelt beside the violet. "My sweet boy, better is a lie we tell ourselves when we compare. There is no universal measuring stick for a human heart. Your brother's speed on the field is his gift. Your quiet way of noticing details and building worlds in your mind is yours. The world doesn't need another Ethan or another Noah. It needs a Lucas, with your gentle curiosity, your kind heart, your patient way of seeing things others rush past." She took Lucas's hand and placed it on the trunk of a young maple tree that grew slightly crooked because it had bent around a large rock when it was small. This tree grew around the obstacle instead of breaking. Its trunk is not straight, but it is strong in its own way. One day it will be the most interesting tree in the forest because of its unique shape. Your differences are not flaws to fix. They are the very things that will make your life meaningful. That conversation planted a small seed of hope in Lucas's heart. But changing deep habits of comparison takes time. For weeks, the old voices still whispered when he saw Ethan scoring goals or heard Noah making everyone laugh. But Lucas began to practice something new. Every evening before bed, he wrote 3 things in a small notebook that were true only about him. Not better or worse than anyone else, just true. "I notice patterns in the clouds that others miss. I can sit quietly with my little brother when he's scared. My maps help me dream bigger than the town limits." Slowly, the comparisons lost some of their power. One spring day, the school announced a special personal passion project where every student had to create and present something they truly loved, without any rules about how it should look or sound. Most kids chose sports highlights, comedy routines, or flashy art. Lucas felt the old fear rising. But he remembered Nana Rose's garden and the crooked maple tree. He decided to do something honest. He spent weeks creating something deeply personal, a large, hand-drawn map of an imaginary world called Quiet Haven. It was filled with hidden forests, gentle rivers, secret libraries inside ancient trees, and safe spaces where anyone who felt different could feel at home. The drawings were careful and detailed, full of the quiet wonders Lucas noticed in real life. Instead of trying to make it loud or perfect, he made it true to himself. When presentation day came, Lucas's hands shook as he stood in front of the class. His voice started small, but as he described the hidden valleys where shy creatures felt safe and the libraries where dreamers could read for days, his passion began to shine through. The classroom grew quiet. When he finished, there was a long silence, then warm, genuine applause. Several children came up afterward and said, "Your map makes me want to visit that world." Even Noah admitted, "I could never draw something that detailed. It feels peaceful." For the first time, Lucas felt seen for who he actually was, not for who he wasn't. That summer, Lucas started a small map-making club after school. Children who felt quiet or different came to draw their own inner worlds. Some drew places where they could be loud without fear. Others drew safe corners for their worries. Lucas didn't compare their maps to his. He celebrated what made each one unique. The club became a place where kids learned that their own way of seeing the world was valuable exactly as it was. Lucas still sometimes heard the old comparison voices, especially when Ethan brought home another trophy. But now he had a new response. He would quietly say to himself, "Ethan is Ethan. I am Lucas. We are both needed in this world." He began to notice his own quiet strengths more clearly. His patience, his deep thinking, his ability to make others feel safe and heard. These were gifts the loud, fast, bold children sometimes missed. One golden autumn evening, as the maple trees blazed with color, Lucas and Nana Rose sat on her porch again. He showed her his latest map, a detailed drawing of the real Willow Creek with secret magical places only he had noticed. Nana Rose's eyes shone with pride. "You are growing into your own shape, my boy," she said. "Not straight like your brother. Not loud like your friend. But wonderfully, beautifully Lucas. And that is exactly who the world needs." Lucas looked out at the colorful hills and felt a warm confidence blooming inside him. Not loud and flashy, but steady and true. He no longer needed to be compared to anyone to know his worth. He was learning to measure himself by his own honest effort, his own kind heart, and the quiet joy he brought to his own life and the lives of others. From that season on, Lucas walked through his days with a new lightness. He still cheered for Ethan's victories. He still laughed at Noah's jokes. But he no longer dimmed his own light to make theirs seem brighter. He drew his maps openly. He shared his ideas gently. He helped others in his own patient way. And slowly, people began to see the special beauty in Lucas that had always been there. The boy who noticed what others rushed past, the boy who created safe spaces with his words and drawings, the boy whose quiet strength held a different kind of power. The town of Willow Creek became a little gentler because of him. Children who once felt not enough found courage in Lucas's example. Families talked more openly about celebrating each child's unique path instead of forcing everyone onto the same straight road. Years later, when Lucas grew up and became a cartographer and storyteller who created beautiful books about imaginary worlds that helped anxious children feel seen, he would often return to Willow Creek and sit with Nana Rose's garden, which he now helped tend. He would tell the new generation of children the story of the boy who was always compared, and how he learned that the only comparison that truly matters is the one between who you were yesterday and who you are becoming today, through your own honest, beautiful, imperfect effort. Because the world does not need more copies of the same bright star. It needs the quiet constellations, each one shining in its own unique pattern, creating together a sky full of wonder that no single perfect light could ever achieve alone. And Lucas Bennett, the boy who was once always compared, finally learned to shine exactly as he was, steady, kind, curious, and wonderfully himself. That was the greatest victory of all.